Sixth in for Texas, number 7, Kevin Durant.
On opening night, when Kevin Durant's name was called in Oklahoma City for the first time in nearly a decade, the noise inside Paycom Center told a story by itself. What was once a city that embraced him like a hometown hero had turned into a sea of boos. And for a moment, you could see him almost smirk. Not because it didn't bother him, but because at this point, he's used to it. It wasn't the first time Durant had been on the receiving end of hate from a fan base that once loved him. And as strange as it sounds, that's when it finally became clear. Kevin Durant doesn't have a home. Not in Oklahoma City, not in Golden State, not in Brooklyn, and certainly not in Phoenix. He's one of the most talented players to ever touch a basketball, a two-time NBA champion, a league MVP, and a generational scorer. But somehow, he's never found a place that truly claims him. But when you look at the bigger picture, every superstar of this era has one. Stephen Curry has the Bay. Giannis Antetokounmpo has Milwaukee. LeBron James has Cleveland and Miami. But Durant's been great everywhere, but beloved nowhere. He spent an entire career chasing the perfect basketball situation, the right teammates, the right system, the right moments, and in the process, he's left behind a trail of broken fan bases and burned bridges. The boos that night weren't just about a decision he made nearly 10 years ago. They were a reminder that every time Durant has walked away, he's lost a piece of himself. Every team he's joined has ended the same way, with success that never felt complete, and exits that left the people who once adored him feeling betrayed. But to understand how Kevin Durant became the man without a home, we have to go back to where it all began.
With the second pick in the 2007 NBA Draft, the Seattle Supersonics select Kevin Durant from the University of Texas.
When he entered the league in 2007, there was no noise and no controversy. Just a skinny kid from DC with a jumper that looked effortless. He started his career in Seattle, but before he could even unpack his bags, the franchise packed their own and moved to Oklahoma. And for a city that had never had a team to call its own, Durant became more than just a rising star. He became the heartbeat of that entire community. The Thunder were young, raw, and unproven, but Durant gave them an identity before he even knew what winning felt like. He wasn't loud, he wasn't flashy, he just showed up and gave the people in Oklahoma something to believe in. They watched him grow year after year into one of the best scorers the game had ever seen. And when Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka joined him, it felt like basketball magic. A perfect storm of homegrown talent that wasn't supposed to happen in a small market. Now the rest of the league had its own bright stars, but Oklahoma City had something real. They had a team built from scratch and a superstar who looked like he actually wanted to stay. And when they made the finals in 2012, the world saw them as the next great dynasty. And even though they lost to LeBron's Heat, it didn't feel like a failure. In all reality, it felt like the beginning. Durant was the NBA's model of loyalty, the humble star who didn't need Hollywood or headlines. And when he stood on that stage 2 years later, tears in his eyes, calling his mom the real MVP,
"You sacrificed for us. You the real MVP."
That's when the world truly fell in love with him. You could feel it in every word. This city wasn't just where he played, it was home. But in sports, love always has an expiration date. That same passion that builds legends can turn bitter when the story doesn't end the way it's supposed to. And after just a single finals loss, the cracks started to show. Harden was traded, injuries started to pile up, and the young dynasty that once looked unstoppable started to feel cursed. Durant went from beloved to questioned. Every playoff loss became another reason for people to wonder if he was really built to win. The media turned up the pressure, fans grew relentless. And suddenly, the kid who once felt untouchable was being told he wasn't enough. By 2016, the Thunder were running out of chances. That year's Western Conference Finals felt like a redemption arc, up 3-1 against the 73-win Warriors, one step away from the finals and one step from rewriting his story. But then came Game 6. Klay Thompson caught fire, the Warriors stormed back, and just like that, it all fell apart. The Thunder lost that series, and the heartbreak that followed wasn't just another playoff exit. It was officially the breaking point. Durant had spent 9 seasons giving everything he had to Oklahoma City, but the criticism never stopped. He had been the loyal superstar, the unselfish teammates, the perfect face of a small market franchise. And yet all of that combined still wasn't enough. So when free agency came that summer, he made a decision that changed everything. He joined the Golden State Warriors, the same team that had just beaten him.
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar.
Playing his 10th season out of the University of Texas, number 35, Durant.
The reaction was instant and it was brutal. Jerseys were burned all across the state. Snake trended for weeks on Twitter, and fans wore cupcake shirts as a reminder of what they thought he'd become. The same people who once saw him as family now saw him as the enemy. And even after all the success that came later, the championships, the finals MVPs, he's never escaped that feeling. Every time he's come back to Oklahoma, the boos got louder. He tried to play through them to act like they didn't matter, but it always has. Oklahoma City wasn't just where Kevin Durant started, it was where he belonged. It was the one place that truly felt like his. And when he walked away, he didn't just leave a team. He left behind the only home that ever loved him without condition. The people who once called him their hero turned him into their villain. And deep down, he's never stopped trying to fill that void. He thought leaving would bring him peace, that winning would finally make him whole. But what he learned at Golden State was that success doesn't always feel like home, especially when you've already left yours behind. When Kevin Durant joined the Warriors, basketball had never looked this easy. The league had seen super teams before, but nothing like this. Golden State had already played the game like it was art. The ball movement, the spacing, the rhythm. And when Kevin Durant stepped onto that floor, it was like adding a cheat code to a masterpiece. The game slowed down for him, but sped up for everybody else. Every jumper, every drive, every pull-up three looked effortless. The Warriors didn't just win with KD, they dismantled people. In that first year, he silenced every basketball doubt. He went toe-to-toe with LeBron in the finals and buried him with back-to-back daggers on the same courts. He was named Finals MVP, finally on the top of the world, finally with the validation he thought he'd been missing. Golden State already had a soul long before Kevin Durant arrived. Durant was the weapon that made them unbeatable, but never the reason they played. Even as he dominated, the conversation around him never stopped. The fans said his rings didn't count. The analysts called him a coward, and players around the league were whispering that he took the easy way out. He'd just become the most efficient scorer in modern basketball, and somehow, people respected him even less. Golden State won it again in 2018, and Durant claimed yet another's final MVP. But by then, the narrative had already turned on him completely. He wasn't celebrated, he was just tolerated. He had given the Warriors everything, and it still felt like he was renting from their success. And behind the scenes, once again, the cracks started to show. In November of 2018, during a close game with Los Angeles, Draymond Green let him have it. On live television, in front of the entire bench, he shouted, "We don't need you, we won without you." It was the moment that said what everyone had been thinking. No matter how many shots Durant hit, no matter how many banners they hung, he would never truly be one of them. The dynasty had its hierarchy, and Kevin Durant would always be the one standing just outside of it. The chemistry that once looked unstoppable felt strained. The laughter turned into tension, and every question from the media was about his future, and it made him uncomfortable. It wasn't that he hated the Warriors, it's just that he knew he didn't belong there anymore. And by the time the 2019 finals came around, the end was already written. Durant was battling a calf injury, but he came back early, desperate to just prove something. And in Game 5, he tore his Achilles. The arena went silent as he limped off the floor, and for a brief second, everyone forgot about the noise. And it's cruel because that was the only time people truly felt sorry for Kevin Durant. And after that day, he never wore a Warriors jersey ever again. And when Durant left that summer, he wasn't running from criticism anymore, he was running from emptiness. After years of being called a follower, a mercenary, a man who took the easy way out, he wanted to build something real, something he could finally call his own. And Brooklyn looked like the perfect place to do it. It wasn't New York's bright lights or Hollywood's spotlight, it was quiet. A blank canvas where he and Kyrie Irving could create their own version of greatness. No corporate dynasty, no Splash Brothers, no pre-written legacy to step into. This time, Durant wasn't joining somebody else's story, he was writing one from scratch. Coming off an Achilles tear, most players would have faded quietly into the background, but not Kevin Durant. He spent an entire season rehabbing in silence, and when he finally came back, he didn't just look good, he looked reborn. His game was sharper, his footwork was tighter, and his jumper was even smoother. And then Brooklyn added James Harden. 3 generational scorers, 3 basketball savants, all on one roster. The league had never seen that kind of talent under one building. It felt like dynasty, but not the manufactured kind he joined in Golden State, but something organic built out of friendship and respect. Durant was finally surrounded by people who understood him, or at least that's what he thought. When all 3 stars were on the floor, their offense was unstoppable. But the moment that defined Durant's time in Brooklyn wasn't a win, it was a loss. It was Game 7 against the Milwaukee Bucks. Durant rises up for a shot that would have sent the Nets to the Eastern Conference Finals, but his toe was on the line. 1 inch too forward, they'd end up losing in overtime, and just like that, the story flips from triumph to tragedy. That was the closest Kevin Durant ever got to rewriting his legacy. He was 1 inch away from everything he'd been searching for. And after that night, everything in Brooklyn started to unravel. Kyrie refused the vaccine, and suddenly basketball wasn't the headline anymore. Harden, who had joined to chase a title, grew tired of the drama and forced his way out. Steve Nash, handpicked to be the easygoing coach who let its stars lead, found himself in the middle of chaos. And Kevin Durant, who just wanted to focus on basketball, found himself once again in the center of dysfunction that he'd never asked for. Durant, who had spent years just trying to escape the noise, was right back in the middle of it. Except this time, it was louder than ever. He requested a trade, then pulled it back. He denied beef with Kyrie Irving, then he got traded. He publicly backed Steve Nash, then asked him to be fired. Every step, every headline, and every rumor made him look like the thing he'd swore he'd never become. A superstar who couldn't fix the problems he helped create. And by the time he finally looked around, the empire he'd built had already crumbled. James Harden was gone, Kyrie Irving was gone, and the Nets, the team that was supposed to prove he could win his way, had become a punchline. Durant left Brooklyn quietly, traded to Phoenix before the deadline. Yet another home left behind before it ever could even feel like one. Brooklyn was supposed to be the redemption story, the one where Durant finally found peace after years of chasing approval, but it turned into something much sadder. He didn't leave because he wanted to start over again, he left because there was nothing left to save. And for the first time in his career, it stopped feeling like anybody cared.
And number 35, Kevin Durant.
When Kevin Durant arrived in Phoenix, it felt different. Not because of what was said, but because of what wasn't. There was no debates, no think pieces, no outrage, just silence. After years of either being loved or hated, Durant had finally become something new. He became ignored. He spent a decade as one of the most polarizing players in basketball. Every move was dissected, every quote turned into a headline, every game was under a microscope. But in Phoenix, there was none of that. There was no drama, no obsession, just basketball. The Suns looked like a perfect situation on paper. Devin Booker, Chris Paul, a team that was already on the doorstep of contention. Durant was supposed to be that missing piece. The veteran star who could finally push them over the edge. But the truth is, it never felt right. The chemistry was off, the connection never formed, and even when they won, it didn't feel alive. It was efficient basketball without any emotion. Kevin Durant did what he always does. He had impossible shots, carried stretches of games, and showed flashes of the dominance that once defined him. In Oklahoma City, he was adored. In Golden State, he was despised. In Brooklyn, he was misunderstood, but in Phoenix, he was nothing. He wasn't a savior nor a villain, just another player wearing another jersey. And for someone who'd once made the entire league orbit around him, that kind of silence was worse than hate. He could still score 30 on any given night, still dominate stretches like few players on this planet could. But the league around him had simply moved on. Guys like Luka, Giannis, Wembanyama, they were the new conversation. And that's what made Phoenix so painful. It didn't feel like a failure, it felt like he was fading away. The game had caught up to him, and for the first time, he wasn't the story. And that's why when Houston came calling, it felt different. This wasn't another super team, another chase for validation, another step in the cycle. It was something smaller and something real, and a final chance to belong somewhere before the story officially ended.
You're headed to Houston. How does that sound?
When Kevin Durant was traded to the Houston Rockets, it didn't just shake the league. It felt like the story coming full circle. The trade itself was massive, a 17 blockbuster that dominated every headline. But for once, the noise around Kevin Durant wasn't toxic. There was no outrage, no betrayal, no endless debate about what it meant for his legacy. For the first time since Oklahoma City, people weren't mad that he moved on. They were curious if he'd finally found a place to stay. And maybe that's what makes Houston feel so different. It's not the flash of Golden State or the spotlight of Brooklyn or the quiet indifference in Phoenix. It's something simpler and something more meaningful. A young team with promise, a franchise ready to rise again, and a city that had room for him to take the lead. After almost 2 decades of chasing perfection, Kevin Durant is back in Texas, back in the state where all of this started. And this time, he's not the phenom out of college or the mercenary chasing rings. He's the teacher, he's the example, and he's the voice in the locker room that actually matters. For the first time, he isn't surrounded by stars trying to prove something, he's surrounded by kids trying to learn. He signed an extension within weeks of arriving, 2 more years, $90 million. It doesn't matter that he's not the most talked about player in the league anymore. It doesn't matter that he's not trending every night or leading in the MVP race. For once, this silence doesn't feel like rejection, it feels like home. Everywhere else, Kevin Durant had a piece of someone else's story. The next big thing in Oklahoma City, the villain in Golden State, the mystery in Brooklyn, and the afterthought in Phoenix. But in Houston, for the first time in a while, he can just play basketball. And maybe that's what this is all leading to. Every mistake, every departure, every broken bridge, all of that brought him here. If he could bring this Houston team its first title since the 90s, then maybe finally he'll have found what's eluded him his entire career. A place that isn't just another step along the way. A franchise that doesn't just remember what he did, but claims him as their own. Kevin Durant can finally have a place where he can call home.